The ancient stone tablet glowed under the scanning light as Kang Tai-min carefully brushed away centuries of dust. His hand shook slightly as he read the symbols carved deep into the dark rock. After 15 years of searching through ruins across 17 different star systems, he had found something that could change everything the galaxy believed about its history. Another myth tablet? Dr. Yoon Hairi asked from behind him. The council's chief xenobiologist stepped closer, her purple Velaran skin reflecting the scanner's blue light. Taemin, you need to stop chasing these stories. The council has more important work for you. Taemin did not look up from the tablet. This is not a myth, Harry. Look at these star charts. They match 15 other sites I have studied. All of them point to the same thing. Humans. Harry said with a tired sigh. These magical beings from a death world called Earth, who could supposedly travel between stars without technology we understand. Taemin, think about what you are saying. We have cataloged every species in the galaxy. There are 5 major civilizations, and that is all there has ever been. The young historian finally looked up at his colleague. His dark eyes burned with excitement. What if we are wrong? What if there was a 6th species, one so different from us that we cannot even imagine how they lived? Hairi walked to the window of the research station. Outside, the stars of the Nexus system sparkled in the darkness. This was the center of galactic civilization, where representatives from all 5 species worked together. The logical Valorans, like herself, managed science and exploration. The telepathic axioms handled communication and diplomacy. The hive-minded Kalari controlled manufacturing and construction. The energy-based Lumens provided power and transportation. The mechanical Syntheri maintained all technology. 5 species, Taemin. 5 species that have worked together for 3,000 years. If these humans existed, where are they now? Why have we never found any real proof? Taemin carefully photographed the tablet with his scanner. Maybe they left. Maybe they are hiding. Maybe we drove them away. Far from the civilized center of the galaxy, Captain Lee Dongwoo stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable. His ship was one of humanity's newest scout vessels, built for long-range reconnaissance missions into unknown space. For the past 6 months, he had been watching the movements of alien fleets along what humans called the contact line. Captain, called Lieutenant Kim Nari from her sensor station, I am detecting massive fleet movements in sectors 7 through 12. The aliens are expanding their territory again. Dongwoo studied the display showing thousands of alien ships moving in organized formations. The 5 species had formed some kind of alliance, and they were pushing deeper into space that had been empty for centuries. They did not know that this empty space was not really empty at all. How long before they reach our outer colonies? He asked. At their current speed, maybe 6 months, Nari replied. Should we send a warning to Colonial Command? The captain nodded slowly. 300 years ago, humanity had fought a terrible war against an ancient empire that had tried to enslave them. They had won, but the cost had been enormous. Entire worlds had been destroyed. Billions had died. After the war, humanity had decided to leave the inner galaxy and build new homes in the outer rim, far from other civilizations. Now it seemed that other civilizations were coming to them. Send the message, Dongwoo ordered. Tell Command that first contact may be coming sooner than we planned. Back on Nexus Prime, Taemin worked late into the night in his laboratory. The tablet he had found contained more information than any previous discovery. The stone was old, maybe 10,000 years old, but the writing was clear. It told a story about beings called humans who came from a world where everything tried to kill everything else. According to the tablet, these humans were different from any known species. They had no natural weapons like Kalari claws or axiom mental powers. They could not live in space like the Lumens or interface directly with machines like the Syntheri. They were not even very strong or fast compared to other species. But they had something else. They could adapt to anything. They could learn any skill. They could survive in places that would kill other beings. Most importantly, they never gave up, no matter how hopeless things seemed. The tablet described great wars where humans fought with simple kinetic weapons against enemies with advanced energy technology. It told of humans surviving in environments that should have been impossible for biological life. It spoke of human ships that could travel faster than any known vessel, using technology that worked on completely different principles. Taemin rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the time display. It was very late, but he could not stop reading. At the bottom of the tablet, written in smaller text, was something that made his blood run cold. When the galaxy bleeds, the children of Earth will return. The next morning, Tae-min presented his findings to the Galactic Archaeological Society. The meeting room was filled with scientists from all 5 species. Dr. Yoon Hairi sat in the front row, along with other department heads and council representatives. "The evidence is clear," Tae-min said, standing before the large display screen showing images of the tablet. "This civilization existed. They left records on dozens of worlds. They had technology we do not understand and capabilities we have never seen." "Even if these humans existed," interrupted Professor Cho Min-soo, a senior Valoran archaeologist, "they are obviously extinct. We have found no recent traces of them anywhere." "That is what worries me," Tae-min replied. "Every extinct civilization in our database fell shortly after making contact with beings that match human descriptions. What if they are not extinct? What if they are just hidden?" The room fell silent. Finally, Dr. Hairi stood up. "Tae-min, you are suggesting that there is a 6th major species out there, one that our combined fleets and sensors have never detected. Do you understand how impossible that sounds?" "Impossible or not," Tae-min said quietly, "the evidence is here, and according to these records, they are coming back." As the meeting ended in confused arguments, none of the assembled scientists noticed the small data transmission leaving Nexus Prime. In the outer rim, Captain Dong-woo received a coded message from an old friend who worked in galactic intelligence. The message was short but alarming. "They are starting to remember you exist. Time to decide what happens next." Dong-woo stared at the message for a long time. Humanity had hoped to remain hidden for at least another century. They were not ready for contact with the galactic civilizations. But ready or not, it seemed that contact was coming. He opened a communication channel to Colonial Command and began composing a message that would change the course of galactic history. The age of myths was ending. The age of truth was about to begin. The UES Olive Branch drifted silently through space near the border between human territory and the expanding alien civilizations. Commander Park Ji-hoon stood on the small bridge, watching the scanner displays that showed no signs of other ships in the area. His vessel was humanity's first attempt at peaceful contact with the galactic civilizations. "Sir," called Ensign Ryu Min-ho from the communication station, "we are receiving a transmission from an approaching vessel. They are requesting we identify ourselves." Ji-hoon straightened his uniform. "Put it on screen, Min-ho. Let us see who we are dealing with." The main display flickered to life, showing the image of a tall, purple-skinned being with large, dark eyes. The alien wore what appeared to be a military uniform covered in symbols that meant nothing to the humans. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Cho Min-soo of the Valoran patrol ship Wisdom. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately or we will consider you hostile." Ji-hoon stepped forward. "Captain Cho, I am Commander Park Ji-hoon of the human vessel Olive Branch. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic contact with your government." The alien captain's eyes widened. Behind him, other aliens could be seen moving quickly around what looked like a ship's bridge. "Human? That is impossible. Humans are myths. Fantasy stories. I assure you, Captain, we are very real. We would like to arrange a meeting between our peoples to discuss peaceful coexistence." Captain Cho disappeared from the screen for several minutes. When he returned, his expression was confused and worried. "Commander Park, our sensors cannot properly detect your vessel. According to our readings, you should not be able to survive in space. Your ship shows no energy shielding, no AI systems, no gravitational compensators. How are you alive?" Dr. Kim Nari, the human xenobiologist, stepped beside Ji-hoon. "Captain Cho, our species developed differently than yours. We do not require the same technology to survive. Perhaps we could meet in person to explain?" 3 hours later, a small shuttle from the Valoran ship docked with the Olive Branch. Captain Cho emerged wearing a full environmental suit, followed by 2 other Valorans and what appeared to be a floating crystal that pulsed with blue light. "That is an axiom," Dr. Kim whispered to Ji-hoon, "the telepathic species. It is probably trying to read our minds." The meeting took place in the Olive Branch's small conference room. Captain Cho and his team sat on one side of the table, while Ji-hoon, Dr. Kim, and Engineer Lee Dong-woo represented humanity. "This is impossible," Captain Cho said, staring at the humans. "You are biological entities with no visible technological enhancements. You are breathing our ship's atmosphere without assistance. According to our medical scanners, your bodies should not be able to function in this gravitational field. Dr. Kim pulled out a data pad showing human biological information. Captain, humans evolved on a world with higher gravity than most inhabited planets. We adapted to survive in extremely hostile conditions. What seems impossible to you is normal for us. The axiom crystal pulsed brighter and projected a voice directly into everyone's minds. I cannot read their thoughts clearly. Their mental patterns are chaotic and shielded by something I do not understand. How do you resist telepathic contact? Engineer Lee spoke up. We did not know you were trying to read our minds. We do not have telepathic abilities ourselves. Maybe our brains just work differently. Captain Cho leaned forward. You said you come in peace. Where have you been hiding? Our sensor networks cover most of the galaxy. We should have detected your civilization long ago. We live in the Outer Rim, Ji-hoon explained. We prefer to keep to ourselves. We have been watching your expansion and decided it was time to make contact before our territories overlap. Watching us? The axiom's mental voice carried alarm. For how long? Several years, Ji-hoon admitted. We wanted to understand your intentions before revealing ourselves. Captain Cho stood up quickly. You have been spying on us? This is an act of aggression. No, Captain. We were being careful. Surely you can understand the need for caution when meeting a new species. Before Captain Cho could respond, alarms began ringing throughout both ships. Sir, called Minho from the bridge, multiple vessels are dropping out of hyperspace. It looks like a fleet. On the main screen, dozens of alien ships appeared around the small meeting area. They were larger and more heavily armed than Captain Cho's patrol vessel. This is Admiral Huang Su-jin of the Kalari Collective. A harsh voice announced over the communication system. Unknown vessels will surrender immediately for inspection and quarantine. Any resistance will be met with force. Captain Cho looked apologetic. Commander Park, I had to report this contact to my superiors. They must have sent the Kalari to investigate. Ji-hoon turned to his crew. Dr. Kim, get back to the bridge. Lee, prepare for emergency departure. Captain Cho, I suggest you return to your ship. You cannot escape, Captain Cho said. The Kalari have surrounded you with 50 ships. Surrender and you will be treated fairly. Captain, with respect, we did not come here to be captured. We came to talk. The Kalari Admiral's voice filled the room again. Alien vessel, you have 10 seconds to lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to flee will result in your destruction. Ji-hoon spoke calmly into his communicator. All stations, this is the captain. Execute Protocol 7 immediately. Captain Cho watched in amazement as the humans quickly but calmly prepared for something. What is Protocol 7? It means we are leaving, Dr. Kim said as she headed for the bridge. Impossible. No ship can escape a Kalari battle formation. The countdown from the Kalari fleet reached 0. Energy weapons fired at the space where the olive branch had been just moments before. But the human ship was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone from all sensors. Captain Cho rushed back to his ship and ran to the bridge. Where did they go? How did they disappear? His sensor officer, a young Velaran named Yoon Hae-ri, stared at her displays in confusion. Sir, they were here 1 second and gone the next. No hyperspace signature, no energy discharge, no debris. They just vanished. Admiral Huang's angry voice filled the communication channels. Captain Cho, explain what happened here immediately. Admiral, I am not sure I can explain it. The humans use technology we do not understand. They escaped from a full battle formation without a trace. Humans? The Admiral's voice carried disbelief. You are telling me that mythical creatures outsmarted 50 Kalari warships? Far from the meeting site, the olive branch dropped out of its stealth mode near a human listening post. Ji-hoon sat in his command chair, reviewing the recordings of the meeting. Sir, Dr. Kim said from her station, what do we report to Colonial Command? Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. Tell them that first contact did not go as planned. The galactic civilizations are aggressive and paranoid. They view any unknown technology as a threat. Do you think they will try to find us? Dr. Kim, they just mobilized 50 warships to capture one small diplomatic vessel. Yes, I think they will try to find us. And when they do, I do not think they will be interested in peaceful coexistence. Engineer Lee looked up from his console. Captain, I monitored their communications during the encounter. They are already calling us a potential invasion force. They think we are using advanced cloaking technology to hide a large military fleet. Are we? Dr. Kim asked. Ji-hoon smiled grimly. Not yet. But after today we might need to be. The human ship turned toward home, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, 50 alien warships searched empty space for any trace of the vessel that had vanished before their eyes. The age of myths was over. The age of suspicion had begun. In the Kalari fleet, Admiral Huang stared at the tactical display showing nothing but empty space. "Prepare a full report for the Council. Tell them we have confirmed the existence of an unknown species with advanced stealth capabilities. Recommend immediate military response." "Sir," asked his tactical officer, "what if they really did come in peace?" Admiral Huang turned away from the display. "Officer, in my experience, only two types of species develop perfect stealth technology. Those who are planning to attack, and those who are planning to disappear forever. Either way, they are now our problem." Kang Tae-min worked frantically in his laboratory on Nexus Prime, surrounded by data displays showing historical patterns that made his stomach turn cold. Dr. Shin Bo-ra and Professor Lim Jae-sung stood beside him, staring at the evidence they had uncovered over the past week. "Show me the timeline again," Dr. Shin said, her voice tight with worry. Tae-min pointed to the holographic display floating above the table. "Every extinct civilization in our historical database follows the same pattern. First, they report contact with mysterious beings matching human descriptions. Then, within 50 to 100 years, they completely disappear from the galactic record." Professor Lim stepped closer to examine the data. The Corvani Empire gone 3,000 years ago. The Zentari Federation vanished 2,000 years ago. The Macron Republic disappeared 1,500 years ago. All of them were advanced civilizations with powerful military forces. And all of them, Tae-min added grimly, left records describing enemies who fought with primitive kinetic weapons against their energy-based technology. Enemies who never surrendered, never retreated, and never stopped coming. Dr. Shin pulled up another display. "But Tae-min, correlation is not causation. Maybe these civilizations fell for other reasons. Internal wars, resource depletion, natural disasters." "Then explain this," Tae-min said, highlighting specific entries in the database. "Every one of these civilizations described the same thing before they vanished. Beings from a death world who adapted to any environment. Creatures who could survive injuries that would kill anyone else. Warriors who treated impossible odds as merely challenging." On the human colony world of New Busan, Governor Yu Hyo-jin read the urgent report from Captain Dong-woo with growing alarm. The conference room was filled with colonial administrators, military officers, and civilian leaders, all waiting to hear what the government's response would be to the failed first contact mission. "Ladies and gentlemen," Governor Yu began, "the situation is clear. The galactic civilizations view us as a threat. Intelligence reports indicate they are mobilizing a massive fleet to deal with what they call the human problem." Admiral Bae Kyung-ho, commander of the Colonial Defense Force, stood up. "Governor, our scouts report over 10,000 alien ships gathering in staging areas along the contact line. They have ships from all 5 species working together. This is not a patrol or an investigation. This is an invasion fleet. What are our defensive capabilities?" asked Dr. Park Yoon-soo, the colony's chief scientist. Admiral Bae activated a holographic display showing human space. "We have 1,200 ships spread across 47 systems. Our technology is different from theirs. We use railguns instead of energy weapons, fusion drives instead of exotic matter propulsion, solid armor instead of energy shields." "Are we outgunned?" Governor Yu asked. "In terms of raw firepower, yes, but their technology relies on complexity and exotic physics. Ours focuses on reliability and redundancy. Our ships are harder to disable because they use simpler systems." Commander Jang Ye-jin, a human intelligence officer, had spent the last month infiltrating Council communication networks. She sat in a hidden listening post deep in neutral space, monitoring alien military communications with growing amazement. "This is incredible," she muttered to herself as she listened to intercepted Kalari tactical discussions. "They have never fought a total war." The more she listened, the more she understood how different the galactic civilizations were from humanity. Their conflicts were limited affairs focused on territorial disputes and resource allocation. They had rules for warfare. They had protocols for surrender. They had concepts of acceptable losses. They had no understanding of a species that would fight to extinction rather than submit. Commander Jang activated her encrypted communication system and sent an urgent, Message to Colonial Command. Enemy psychology assessment complete. They expect limited conflict with negotiated resolution. They have no experience with total war doctrine. Recommend exploitation of this weakness. Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council held an emergency session to discuss the human threat. Representatives from all 5 species filled the Great Chamber, their voices raised in heated debate. The evidence is clear, declared Supreme Admiral Co. Wu Jin, the Axiom representative. These humans possess stealth technology that makes them invisible to our sensors. They could have fleets hiding anywhere in the galaxy. The Valorans agree, added Dr. Yoon Hae-ri, now serving as a military advisor. Our encounter with their diplomatic vessel showed technology we cannot understand or counter. They escaped from 50 Kalari warships without difficulty. The Kalari representative, a massive insectoid creature with multiple arms, clicked its mandibles in agitation. The hive mind has analyzed their behavior patterns. They show no respect for proper military protocol. They refuse to follow established rules of engagement. What do the lumens recommend? Asked the council moderator. The energy being that represented the lumen species pulsed with orange light as it spoke. The light forms detect danger in these creatures. They emit electromagnetic signatures unlike any known biological life. They may not be natural beings. The Syntheri concur, added the mechanical representative. Analysis of their vessel's construction shows technology that should not work according to established physical laws. They use no artificial intelligence, yet their computers process data faster than our networks. Supreme Admiral Seo stood up, his telepathic voice reaching every mind in the chamber. The Council's decision is unanimous. These humans represent an existential threat to galactic civilization. They must be eliminated before they can establish a foothold in civilized space. On New Busan, Admiral Bay received the intelligence reports from Commander Zhang with mixed feelings. Governor, we have good news and bad news. The good news is that the aliens have no experience with the kind of warfare we are prepared to fight. The bad news is that they are so terrified of us that they will not accept any outcome except our complete destruction. Governor Yu stared out the window at the peaceful colonial city below. Admiral, we came to the Outer Rim to escape war. We built these colonies to give our children a chance to live in peace. Now you are telling me that war has followed us here. Yes, Governor. But this time, we are not fighting to defend an empire or protect resources. We are fighting for the right to exist. Dr. Park Yoon-soo activated a secure communication link to other human colonies. All stations, this is New Busan Central Command. Execute Protocol Black. Repeat. Execute Protocol Black immediately. Across human space, the message was received and understood. Protocol Black was humanity's contingency plan for exactly this situation. It called for the immediate conversion of civilian infrastructure to military production, the activation of reserve personnel, and the implementation of total war measures. On the mining world of New Seoul, massive ore processing facilities began producing armor plating and railgun ammunition. On the agricultural world of New Incheon, food production was redirected to support military logistics. On the research station orbiting New Daegu, scientists began working around the clock to develop new weapons and defensive systems. But the most important part of Protocol Black was psychological. Humanity had lived with the knowledge that they might someday have to fight for their survival again. Unlike the galactic civilizations, humans understood that some wars could only end with the complete defeat of one side or the other. Commander Park Ji-hoon, now promoted to captain after his first contact mission, stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned destroyer UES Defiant. His ship was one of 50 vessels assigned to the advanced warning network along the contact line. Sir, called his sensor operator, we are detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching from Council space. It looks like the invasion fleet is beginning to move. Captain Park looked at the tactical display showing thousands of enemy ships advancing toward human territory. Signal all stations. Tell them the war is beginning, and send a message to Colonial Command. What message, sir? Captain Park was quiet for a moment, thinking about the peaceful diplomatic mission that had started this conflict. Tell them that we tried to talk. Now we fight. Light years away, Supreme Admiral Seo stood on the bridge of the Council's flagship, a massive Axiom dreadnought called the Unity. Around him, the largest military fleet in galactic history, prepared for what they believed would be a quick, decisive campaign against a primitive enemy. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, Long-range scouts report no sign of human fleet formations. They appear to be hiding behind their stealth technology. It does not matter, Admiral Seo replied, his telepathic voice calm and confident. We will destroy their worlds one by one until they surrender or are extinct. This threat to galactic peace ends today. Neither side fully understood what they were about to unleash. The galactic civilizations expected a limited conflict against an inferior enemy. Humanity prepared for a war of survival that would determine whether their species lived or died. The age of peace was ending. The age of fire was about to begin. The first major battle between humans and the Galactic Council took place at Terminus Station, a massive trading post that marked the boundary between civilized space and the unknown rim. Captain No Jungwoo guided his destroyer, the UES Tenacious, toward the station with orders to evacuate any civilian personnel before the Council fleet arrived. Sir, called Lieutenant Ryu Min-ho from the tactical station, we are too late. Council ships are already in position around the station. I count 50 vessels, including heavy cruisers and at least one dreadnought. Captain No studied the display showing the enemy formation. His single destroyer was outnumbered 50-1, but his orders were clear. Signal the station. Tell them we are here to assist with evacuation. Captain, the station commander replied over the communication system. This is Manager Seo Woo-jin. We have 3,000 civilians aboard this station. The Council fleet arrived an hour ago and demanded we surrender for protective custody. We refused. Manager Seo, this is Captain No. Prepare your people for emergency evacuation. We will buy you as much time as we can. Admiral Moon Soo-young of the Axiom Forces watched the human ship approach through the sensors of her flagship. Such a small vessel, she murmured to her tactical officer. 50 ships against one. This will be over quickly. Admiral, the officer replied. Should we demand their surrender? No, the Council wants these humans eliminated, not captured. Besides, they have already proven they will not surrender willingly. Admiral Moon activated her telepathic abilities and reached out toward the human ship, expecting to overwhelm the crew's minds with psychic force. Instead, she encountered something she had never experienced before. Human consciousness was unlike anything in the galactic database. Instead of the ordered, logical thought patterns of Valorans or the collective harmony of Kalari minds, human thoughts were chaotic, creative, and somehow protected by what could only be described as pure stubbornness. Impossible, Admiral Moon whispered, pulling back from the mental contact. Their minds resist telepathic influence. How can biological beings shield their thoughts without technology? On the Tenacious, Captain No felt a strange pressure in his head for a moment, then nothing. Did anyone else feel that? He asked his bridge crew. Feel what, sir? Lieutenant Ryu replied. Never mind. All stations prepare for combat. They are probably going to try to disable us first. The battle began when the Council fleet opened fire with coordinated energy weapon strikes designed to overwhelm the human ship's defenses. Bright beams of plasma and particle energy converged on the Tenacious from multiple directions. The crew watched in amazement as the beams struck their ship's armor and simply dispersed across the hull surface. The Tenacious shook from the impacts but suffered no significant damage. Sir, reported Chief Engineer Yang Yunji from the engine room. Our armor is absorbing the energy weapons like they are flashlights. These aliens have never faced solid armor before. Captain No smiled grimly. Their mistake. All batteries return fire. Target the lead cruiser. The Tenacious's railguns fired in sequence, sending tungsten slugs accelerating to nearly 10% of light speed toward the enemy formation. The kinetic projectiles passed through the aliens' energy shields as if they did not exist, and struck the lead Kalari cruiser with devastating force. The impact tore through the alien ship's hull, causing massive internal explosions. Within seconds, the cruiser was drifting powerless, its crew struggling to contain catastrophic damage. Admiral Moon stared at her tactical display in shock. How is that possible? They penetrated our shields with primitive projectile weapons. Her tactical officer checked the sensor readings 3 times before responding. Admiral, their weapons appear to be simple kinetic impactors. Our shields are designed to deflect energy attacks, not solid objects moving at relativistic speeds. One ship, Admiral Moon said with growing anger. One ship just disabled one of our heavy cruisers. All vessels concentrate fire on the human destroyer. Destroy it immediately. But the Tenacious did not behave like any ship in the Council's tactical database. Instead of retreating or trying to escape, Captain No ordered a direct charge into the center of the enemy formation. "Sir," Lieutenant Ryu called out, "we are heading straight into their battle line. They will surround us. That is the idea, Minho. Get us close enough to do some real damage." Lieutenant Ryu understood immediately. The closer they got to the enemy ships, the more difficult it would be for the aliens to coordinate their fire without hitting each other. It was a tactic that required either supreme confidence or complete insanity. The Tenacious raced through the Council formation, its railguns firing continuously at point-blank range. Each shot crippled or destroyed an enemy vessel. But the human ship was taking damage as well. Energy weapon hits were overloading circuits and starting fires throughout the hull. "Captain," Chief Yang reported, "we have lost main power to weapons. I need 10 minutes to reroute through backup systems." "We do not have 10 minutes, Captain No replied, looking at the tactical display showing enemy ships closing in from all sides. Lieutenant Ryu looked up from his station with a wild expression. "Sir, what if we use the mining charges?" "Mining charges? We have 20 industrial mining charges in cargo bay too. If I can rig them as proximity mines and detonate them when the aliens get close enough." Captain No nodded. "Do it. Chief Yang, assist Lieutenant Ryu with the modifications." For the next 5 minutes, the crew of the Tenacious worked frantically to convert their industrial equipment into weapons. When 3 Council ships moved in to finish off what they thought was a disabled enemy, they found themselves facing improvised explosives that detonated at point-blank range. The mining charges, designed to break apart asteroids, proved equally effective against spacecraft. 2 of the attacking ships were completely destroyed, while the third limped away with massive hull damage. Admiral Moon watched the tactical display with growing disbelief. They just turned mining equipment into weapons during active combat. "How is that possible?" "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving damage reports from across the fleet. The humans have disabled or destroyed 12 of our ships." 12 ships? Against 1 destroyer? "Yes, Admiral. And they are still fighting. But the Tenacious was finally running out of options. With main weapons offline and hull breaches throughout the ship, Captain No knew they could not continue much longer. "All hands," he announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare for boarding action. If they want to take this ship, they will have to do it room by room." The end came when a Kalari assault team finally breached the Tenacious's hull and began fighting their way toward the bridge. But instead of encountering a demoralized crew ready to surrender, they found human sailors who continued fighting with personal weapons even when their ship was clearly doomed. Chief Yang led the defense of the engine room, using tools and spare parts as weapons when her ammunition ran out. Lieutenant Ryu held the bridge until the very last moment, transmitting tactical data about enemy ship weaknesses to other human forces, even as alien soldiers broke down the armored doors. Captain No was the last human alive on the ship. When the Kalari soldiers finally reached him, he was still trying to overload the reactor to take as many enemy ships with him as possible. "Why do you not surrender?" the Kalari commander asked through a translation device. "Your ship is destroyed. Your crew is dead. You have lost." Captain No looked up at the alien warrior with blood running down his face. "Because we are human. We do not surrender." The reactor overload succeeded just as Captain No died. The explosion of the Tenacious destroyed 2 more Council ships and damaged several others. Admiral Moon stared at the expanding debris field where the human destroyer had been. 15 ships, she said quietly. 1 human destroyer disabled or destroyed 15 of our ships. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "we are detecting multiple hyperspace signatures approaching. More human ships are arriving." On the main screen, 20 human destroyers dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They had used the Tenacious's sacrifice to position themselves for a devastating surprise attack on the scattered Council. Fleet at Captain Im Haiwan of the lead. Human ship opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. "Council vessels, this is Captain Im of the Colonial Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system, or we will consider you hostile." Admiral Moon looked at her tactical display. Her fleet still outnumbered the humans, but after seeing what 1 human ship could do, she was no longer confident of victory. "All ships," she ordered, "withdraw to safe distance. Signal the Council that we need reinforcements." As the Council fleet retreated, Captain Im studied the debris field where the Tenacious had made its final stand. Communications. Send a message to Colonial Command. Tell them the aliens now know what they are dealing with. And tell them that Captain No and his crew bought us the time we needed. The first battle was over, but both sides knew it was only the beginning. The Council had learned that humans would fight to the death rather than surrender. Humanity had learned that their enemies would not be satisfied with anything less than total victory. The war for survival had begun in earnest. The war between humanity and the Galactic Council escalated beyond anything either side had expected. Fleet Admiral Ko Jin-woo stood in the command center of the human battleship UES Indomitable, studying tactical displays that showed the scope of the conflict spreading across dozens of star systems. "Admiral," reported Captain An Tae-ho, "our deep strike forces have successfully hit supply depots in the Nexus and Kalari home systems. Enemy response time to our attacks has increased by 40%. Admiral Ko nodded approvingly. "Good. Continue the pressure. How are our defensive lines holding?" "Sir, that is where the situation becomes complicated. The Council forces have adapted faster than we expected. They are learning to counter our kinetic weapons by using overlapping shield frequencies." The human strategy had surprised the Council from the beginning. Instead of defending their colonies in static battles, humanity had abandoned territory and struck deep into Council space. Human fleets appeared suddenly at critical infrastructure points, destroyed their targets, and vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. On Nexus Prime, Kang Tae-min worked frantically with his research team to understand what they were fighting. Dr. Song Mi-young, a cultural anthropologist who had joined the team, made discoveries that terrified the Council leadership. "Tae-min," she said, pointing to data scrolling across her display. "Look at this. I have been analyzing the cultural patterns from the ancient human ruins. These beings did not just evolve on a harsh world. They evolved on what they call a death world." "What does that mean?" asked Dr. Shin Bora. Dr. Song pulled up biological data from the ancient records. Earth was a planet where apex predators competed with other apex predators for millions of years. Everything on that world evolved to kill everything else. Humans are the survivors of that environment. Tae-min stared at the information with growing horror. "You are saying they are natural-born killers?" "No, that is not accurate. They are natural-born survivors. There is a difference. They do not kill for pleasure or dominance. They kill when they believe their survival is threatened, and right now, they believe we are trying to make their species extinct." Meanwhile, in the Outer Rim, Captain Park Sora led human ground forces in what the aliens were learning to call impossible warfare. Her Marines had been deployed to the world of New Mokpo when a Kalari occupation force landed with overwhelming numerical superiority. "Colonel Park," called Sergeant Kim Hyun-woo over the radio. "The alien commander is demanding we surrender. He says resistance is pointless against their superior numbers." Colonel Park checked her tactical display. 3,000 Kalari soldiers against her 200 Marines. By any reasonable calculation, the humans should surrender immediately. "Sergeant, send a reply to the alien commander. Tell him that humans do not surrender. Then begin Operation Nightmare." Operation Nightmare was humanity's doctrine for fighting occupation forces. Instead of trying to defeat the enemy in direct combat, human forces made occupied worlds uninhabitable for the occupiers. Supply convoys were destroyed. Communication networks were sabotaged. Enemy soldiers faced constant harassment from an enemy they could never quite locate. But the psychological warfare was even more effective than the physical attacks. The Kalari had never faced an enemy that refused to follow established rules of engagement. Human soldiers appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They struck at night and vanished before dawn. They turned the aliens' own equipment against them. Within 2 weeks, the Kalari commander was requesting immediate evacuation. His forces were suffering casualties from attacks that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. His soldiers were afraid to leave their fortified positions. The world they had captured had become a nightmare that consumed resources without providing any strategic value. In space, the war was evolving in equally unexpected ways. Captain Choi Byung-hoon commanded a human cruiser squadron that had been tasked with preventing Council forces from reinforcing their forward positions. His solution was something the aliens had never encountered before. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the enemy convoy is protected by 20 escort vessels. Standard doctrine would be to avoid engagement. Captain Choi studied the enemy formation. Lieutenant, what happens if we destroy the convoy but leave the escorts intact? Sir, the escorts would be stranded without supplies or support. They would have to withdraw or face starvation. Exactly. But what if we destroy the escorts and leave the convoy intact? The tactical officer thought for a moment. The convoy would be undefended, but they would still have supplies. They might try to reach their destination. Wrong, Lieutenant. If we destroy the escorts, the convoy crews will panic and try to escape. Ships fleeing in random directions are much easier to hunt down than ships in defensive formation. Captain Choi's strategy worked perfectly. The human squadron destroyed the escort vessels first, causing the convoy ships to scatter in terror. Without military protection, the civilian crews surrendered immediately rather than face destruction. But the psychological impact was more important than the tactical victory. Council convoy crews began refusing assignments to areas where human forces operated. The mere possibility of encountering human raiders was enough to disrupt enemy logistics across multiple sectors. The Council's response was to implement what they called protective measures for their civilian populations. Admiral Huang Sujin of the Kolari Collective announced that any world that harbored human forces would be subjected to orbital bombardment. The first test of this policy came when human raiders struck a supply depot on the Valoran world of Prima. Instead of pursuing the attackers, Admiral Huang ordered the bombardment of the entire planet. Sir, his tactical officer protested, there are millions of our own civilians on that world. The humans used our civilians as shields, Admiral Huang replied coldly. If we allow this tactic to succeed, they will use it everywhere. Sometimes victory requires terrible choices. The bombardment of Prima shocked both sides. The Council had just destroyed one of their own worlds to deny it to human forces. But the human response was even more shocking. Admiral Ko received reports of the Prima bombardment while commanding a fleet action near the Axiom home system. His response was immediate and decisive. All ships, he broadcast on an open channel that he knew the aliens would intercept, implement Protocol Omega immediately. If they want to play by those rules, we will show them what total war really means. Protocol Omega was humanity's most extreme contingency plan. It called for the systematic destruction of any infrastructure that might benefit the enemy, including human colonies that could not be defended. The first world to be sacrificed was New Jeju, a human agricultural colony that was about to be overrun by Council forces. Instead of allowing the aliens to capture the planet's food production facilities, the human defenders destroyed everything of value and evacuated the population. When Council forces arrived, they found a barren world with poisoned soil and destroyed infrastructure. The cost of occupying and rebuilding the planet would exceed any possible benefit. But Protocol Omega went beyond just denying resources to the enemy. Human forces began targeting civilian infrastructure throughout Council space. Power stations, communication networks, transportation hubs, anything that supported the enemy war effort became a legitimate target. Ambassador Oh Young-mi, humanity's senior diplomat, finally received permission to meet with Council representatives under a temporary ceasefire. The meeting took place on a neutral space station operated by an independent species that wanted no part of the war. Ambassador Oh, said Supreme Admiral Seo Woo-jin, representing the Council, this conflict has escalated beyond all reason. Surely we can find some peaceful resolution? Ambassador Oh looked at the alien diplomat with tired eyes. Admiral, 3 months ago, my government sent a peaceful delegation to establish diplomatic relations. Your response was to mobilize 10,000 warships. What kind of peaceful resolution did you have in mind? We propose that humans accept relocation to designated reservation worlds under Council supervision. You would be allowed to maintain your culture and limited self-government. In other words, you want us to surrender and accept imprisonment. Ambassador, be reasonable. Your species is outnumbered 1,000 to 1. You cannot win this war. Ambassador O stood up slowly. Admiral, let me explain something about humans that your intelligence services have obviously missed. We do not fight wars to win. We fight wars to survive, and we will continue fighting until either you are defeated or we are extinct. That is insane. That is human. The meeting ended without agreement. As Ambassador O prepared to return to human space, she delivered one final message to the Council representative. Admiral, you awakened something that was content to remain hidden in the outer rim. Every day this war continues, We become more like what you feared we were in the first place. You wanted to see the monsters from the death world? Congratulations. You are about to meet them. The ceasefire ended 12 hours later when human forces struck 3 council worlds simultaneously. But these were not the precise military strikes of earlier in the war. These were the tactics of a species that had decided survival required the complete destruction of anyone who threatened them.